You're listening to Film Poems. We're not lying to you, but we can't tell you the truth. I'm Chelsea Christopher,
Hey, I'm Will.
and here at Film Poems, we watch one film a week and talk about it. I, Chelsea, also write a poem about it. Sometimes Will does too. Our categories each month are award winners, foreign films, a double feature of our making, and wild card, where we can choose any film we please. We also go to the movie theater once a month and see a modern movie, but you can only hear that bonus episode on our Patreon. You can become a member at patreon.com/filmpoems, where you can find loads of bonus goodies. One of our favorites is when we record overtime and give you the entire rest of the recorded conversation that we couldn't fit into this free version you're listening to now. Our Patreon also includes any and all of my film poems, the occasional film essay that I write, behind the scenes stuff, and all the things that inspired us while watching, including images and clips we found and dug up for you. All that and more can be yours at patreon.com/filmpoems. Check it out. And lastly, before we get into this week's film, we want to mention that if you join us on our Instagrams at Chelsea Christopher and can you pronounce yours, Will?
It's under construction.
Here's the spelling. It's at William_SED_SUAVITER. If you go there, you'll be able to see the month ahead and all the films we've chosen for the current and coming month. That way you could watch along with us, which we highly recommend because we are not going to hold back on the spoilers. Get ready. Okay, and now we're going to get into this week. This week, we are talking about our foreign film pick, and we chose the 1960 movie by Akira Kurosawa called The Bad Sleep Well. Will, do you have a plot synopsis you can give the people?
Hamlet. It's Hamlet. It's Hamlet. It's Hamlet. It's Hamlet set in a corporation. It's a giant corporation
Corporate
called
Hamlet.
the Public Corporation.
Pretty simple. Anyway, we're going to get into it in a second, but first I got to read this poem. There's a yawning gap between hope and doom, a garden smoking and mean, and in it rests that fateful bloom that beckons me to your scene. I'm afraid of a flower that looms at night, leaves scratching my cradle with bleak birthright. I sleep bare for my God, for no costumes will soothe when my angel comes lurking before morning's dew. Its red neck is broken, its stem torn in two, and I mustn't venture with it till I've spoken to you. Now what blabber will fill the air when the ending is so clear? Might I tempt to tangle with this fate? Will my petition prove dear? For all my former rage at toil, I am whispering tonight that though my blood was once to boil, it was always full of light. What lives beyond that beaming dawn, I do not wish to know, but I see my time is growing near, so off away I go. The petaled wings remind me that I am loyal, not at fault, and now the red of this fine bed will see me to my vault. I only ask you make me humble that I may relinquish playing at things. No bouquets nor a ceremony, just this single rose I bring. The sun fed it all the time as it lived and breathed the day, and I, its noble servant, will preserve it all the way. For I can't just wander off without a name for my time. And though your dreams may beckon me, I quite enjoyed mine. So call my flower what you may, but call it something, please, and I will not haunt what's behind. I've never been one for greed. That's it.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
You want to talk about it?
Death just stalks this movie. And so when it was over, I had that image of the cake entering the wedding banquet with the rose hanging out the window.
Right.
And how would I react if I knew I was going to die? That's what was on my mind. So that's what I wrote about in my poem. Does it seem fitting that our first story/film with like a clear narrative is inspired by or really is Shakespeare?
I was thinking about this last night. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, I think we kind of choose these films very not haphazardly, but with very little intent. We just kind of subconsciously do it, right? Like it's like it's not curated, right? It's just like the first one that comes to mind. It's like, oh, let's watch this. This is a great film. And then in hindsight, like our first one, our like the first film we reviewed was Baraka, which has no story at all. And so now we're like introducing the narrative element, and it's like, okay, well, let's go with Hamlet. You know, there's like two really great stories in the West. There's the Bible and there's Hamlet. They say it's the greatest play ever written.
Is that what they say? That of all the Shakespeare stories, that's like the one?
You've never heard that?
No. I mean, I've heard that like Shakespeare plays are the greatest plays ever written, but I didn't know Hamlet was considered his very finest piece of work.
Absolutely.
Because it's not my favorite.
I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's considered his best.
I didn't really care about Hamlet growing up. The to die to sleep speech has always stuck with me. I used to have a shirt that had that speech all over it. But otherwise, I didn't really care.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think when I saw the Ethan Hawke version, it changed my opinion of it. I was like, oh, this is like a teenager having an existential crisis. Fuck, he's just walking around in a blockbuster.
Yeah, I mean, okay. You know what's funny is the whole concept of a teenager is kind of a 20th century invention. Like,
Mm.
you don't really imagine eras of human history with like teenagers in them, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, okay, it's like, well, all right, you're 13 years old, like time to go to work. Like you're grown up now. And then by the time you're 22, you've already had four fucking kids, you know, like or you've gone to fight for your country's independence and a revolution, you know what I mean? Like this whole like teenager period is kind of a modern invention.
I suppose that's true. Like very, very modern.
Yeah, so I think that like the interpretation of Hamlet being an angsty teenager and who gives a crap is a very 20th century way to look at it, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
in Elizabeth's day, in Shakespeare's day, like a 17-year-old would pretty much be ready to go, you know, like young, sure, but certainly capable of handling the existential challenges. I think the thing about youth, which is so interesting, is that you see the loss of innocence.
Yes, which I have so much to say about with this film. But
Yeah,
also, you know, in the actual play, he's a prince, and this is about the succession of a kingdom, right?
yeah.
That to me is more compelling. And I think the other thing that I don't really resonate with this story or the play is this tale of vengeance. Like I'm not a vengeful person by any means. And stories of revenge never, I don't know, it doesn't do anything for me, but somehow I still feel like this film is like the perfect film to start with for our narrative films, because I think it's a really great example of the opposite of what we talked about last week.
Mhm.
We were talking about presence and beauty and vitality and being full of life and still being connected to nature. And this, what you're seeing in this film, are all of the things that take you away from that, that
Hmm.
remove your vitality, that get you out of the rhythm, that get you locked in these rigid ways of thinking. And all the lies you tell to other people and to yourself,
Mhm.
all of the survival and protection, all of that contrives the entire experience of being alive. And I remember hearing once that Akira Kurosawa said, if there was any theme I could give to my films, it would be a question, which is why can't people be happier together? And I think this film tells you like a bleaker version of why.
Hmm. Well, it occurs to me that like Iwabushi is himself a lackey.
I know they're all lackeys. That's the thing. It almost makes you go, was he really that bad? Because he's not the one on top. He also is like told to commit suicide. He's also
Mhm.
acting like a sheep when he talks to his boss, you
Mhm.
know? I mean, he's very brutal and really freaking ruthless and cold. The things he does with his daughter are just unbelievable. But
Right.
Nishi, played by Toshiro Mifune, Mifune.
Yeah.
Oh, I fucking love him so much.
Mifune. Oh my
Oh,
god.
I love him. I love him.
He's the man.
I was
He's the
just fanning
man.
myself the whole movie. I was like, yes, pick her up. Yes, ask if she's okay. Oh my god.
Yo, he's the man. Like, no doubt
So
about
good. I feel like before we go further, we should try to give some kind of synopsis.
it. Yeah,
It's Hamlet.
it's Hamlet. Yeah.
But it's this guy named Nishi, played by Toshiro Mifune. Mifune, I'm gonna probably pronounce all their names wrong. Forgive me.
Toshiro Mifune.
Ooh, I like it when you say it. So he marries into this family that runs this giant corporation called Public Core. And we find out through the wedding that there's been a giant scandal happening with the company. A kickback scheme is what they call it. And a bunch of people are getting arrested at the wedding, going in for questioning, and people are killing themselves to protect the company. And all the while, all these little things are happening that are showing that somebody's in on it and they're coming for Public Core. And Nishi is the one doing that. And we find out that Nishi's father was in one of the original scandals where they convinced him to kill himself by jumping out a window, like the 7th floor of the ministry building or whatever. And ever since then, he's been plotting how to get revenge.
Right.
And so he starts collecting the people that are part of the company that were told to go kill themselves and having them like fake their deaths or go insane.
Or perhaps jump into a volcano.
Yeah.
Kill yourself by throwing yourself into a volcano.
Oh my god. Yeah. And
like a real volcano.
like an that's a good way to go.
Did you not find it amazing that they shot that scene at the mouth of a volcano?
Was it a volcano or was it just a construction site? Was it a volcano?
Yeah.
If it is, that's even cooler.
I think it's okay. Let me look it up. I think it's,
yeah, you look it up.
Keep going. I think it's a volcano.
So anyway, he starts gathering these people, and they start working with him, or going completely insane. They start gathering more people and torturing them, and they start to plan how they're going to expose all of this. And they don't care that they're going to go to jail, like whatever. They're happy to do that because they got justice where the law could not. And the wife of Nishi is the daughter of the head of this company, and she comes and visits him and is like trying to understand, is my father actually this evil? Do you have to go to these lengths? And she understands why Nishi would hate him after he tells her everything that happened with his father. But this girl, what's her name? Yoshiko, this is the wife. Yoshiko goes back home, and her father, Iwabuchi,
who we should also say that is a great father, because the mother has died, and he raised both of his children by himself and loved them and always made time for them, etc.
And treated her beautifully. Yeah. But he's a total liar and tells her like he's worried about Nishi, that her brother may have gone after Nishi to kill him. And did you go see Nishi? Where do I find him? Oh, I just want to come clean, blah, blah, blah. And right before that moment, he's given sleeping pills by his superior to take to off himself. But he puts a little bit of the dose in a wine glass. And when Yoshiko finally hears what she wants to hear, that her father does want to come clean, she tells him where Nishi is, and he drugs her with the wine. And there's this awful, upsetting shot that we'll talk about later, where he's just waiting in the hall to see either did she pass out or did I just kill my daughter? Right. And he's like, okay with either option. And she ends up going to sleep. A whole night passes, and the next morning she wakes up, and her brother return to where Nishi was, and Nishi's been murdered. All the people they gathered as allies were murdered. It's all been covered up, and Iwabuchi gets away scot-free. Yoshiko goes totally insane. Her and her brother disown him as a father, and that's it. It's very upsetting. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the rough synopsis. Do you have the update on the volcano?
It's a real volcano.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow.
They filmed it at the mouth of the volcano, and it's kind of a violent scene.
It's a very violent scene. I love that final shot of the scene when Nishi's got Wada is his name, the first
Mm-hmm.
ally he gets.
Mm-hmm.
And is like, what's it gonna be? You want to die? And you just see him grab Wada, put him on the edge, and Wada reaching out his hand to the volcano and screaming as it like slowly zooms out. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that wedding sequence in the beginning is probably one of my favorite film sequences of all time.
It's how long is it? It feels like it's like 40 minutes.
It's 20 minutes, I think.
It's 20 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the pacing of this film is just freaking phenomenal because it's so tense and just like seething and only has like these brief moments of levity that are so jarring, and you're just breathless the whole time. And the wedding is so painful and so dour, and then this cake shows up in the shape of a ministry building with a rose on the 7th floor, and the music swings up, and you finally feel like you can start laughing because it's just so absurd and horrible. You finally get a break.
The music is so great too. I mean, the music in this movie is fantastic. In the wedding scene, well, it's a series of scenes. So I guess it's the wedding act. It's an act. It's not just
the banquet.
The banquet, yeah. In fact, in the I mean, this is kind of the nod to Hamlet. Like the reporters that are watching the wedding say, "What a good first act," or "What a good one act."
Yeah, and then the guy's like, "One act. This is just the prelude," and then it immediately jumps into the rest. They're like a great little like meta. Yeah, they're Greek chorus audience. I love it.
And the music is like a ballet. Like it there's the wedding procession, right? Like from Wagner, and then it changes into this like waltz, and you see the reporters moving around the set in a chorus like a flock of birds to this music, and people giving these really tense speeches while this great ballad is being played, and it's so jarring and like dissonant, and you're like, this is crazy.
I'm for the audience at home, Will is sitting in front of a backdrop that's so beautiful, but it's like a giant sky that's like rainbow colored, and Will's like right in the middle of it, and he's super up close, and it looks like I'm communing with God. It's really funny, so it's making it very difficult to do this podcast and look at him.
Right. Well, we're all divine beings.
Yeah. Might as well.
Some of us, are happy to say it out loud.
I love it. It makes me really happy, but it's really funny too. All right. Well, what else? I want to go back to what you were starting to talk about with innocence. I think that's so important in this film. Yoshiko, the wife, she's literally called a paragon of innocence in the wedding banquet. And anytime any man in the film thinks about her or remembers her, they start to like second guess themselves about this plan or whatever plan they're up to. And then they like return to their resolve. And of course, it's like perfect that she goes insane at the end and is like lost because she is the symbol of innocence. So it's like the final transformation. Iwabuchi's innocence is completely gone. All of childlike or still youthful innocence of Yoshiko is officially dead because now she finally sees how evil her father actually is. And I just found I couldn't believe that she did that she chose to trust her father one more time instead of trust her husband, who just admitted that he's actually been in love with her this whole time. That totally galled me, but then I was like, wow, she really, really still wanted to cling on to the hope that her father was redeemable. That was more important to her than actual justice or her husband, their relationship, his own journey of growth and satisfaction. I was just shocked. I was so shocked. What do you think about that?
I think that because she's symbolically innocence,
Mm-hmm.
she can't really conceive of why, and this goes back to Kurosawa's quote about why people can't be happy. Yoshiko can't imagine that anyone would do this. She can't imagine it because she is innocence. It's not that she's an innocent person, she's innocence itself. And Nishi has those words about in order to fight evil, you have to become evil.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's that alchemical thing.
Mm.
It's why you have to take a bit of poison to have health. You have to turn the poison into medicine in the same way that Nishi has to turn this evil into justice. Otherwise, it's just revenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Yoshiko can't do that because she has no evil in her at all. So she can't be helpful to evil people because she can't relate to it.
Yeah, you've talked about this before. You've said something like good people cannot possibly like conceive of the evil that some people they
Mm-mm,
can't see the
mm-mm,
steps ahead or anything because it would never occur to them
mm-mm.
to act like that.
Right. Yeah, you have to be exposed to the darkness to be able to see it for what it is.
But why do you think she goes insane? Obviously, on a symbolic level, it's clear.
For that very reason, because she witnesses evil for the first time, and because she's innocence itself, it just breaks her. She doesn't have the kind of mind that can incorporate this new information into her understanding of the world. Her world just
But if we
ends.
were to talk about her beyond her being like a symbol of innocence, like if she were a real person, I mean, I can understand why that would break her, but why is it that she cannot handle even a little bit of poison? I mean, it's a lot of poison she ends up having to swallow. It's
It is a
probably the
lot. It's not
biggest
a little.
gulp
It's
in
a
the whole
lot.
film. I don't know. If she were a real person, do you think there would be any hope of her like coming back to sanity?
If she were real,
Yeah, like, or do you think she would stay insane? Can Ophelia not stay insane forever if she's a real person?
well, she kills herself.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Ophelia kills herself.
That's true.
There's a lot of interpretations as to why. I think one of the common ones is that Hamlet's just an asshole,
Yeah, that
and
was
now
the
she
other
can't. And
takeaway when I saw it.
now she can't be with the man that she loves. What a jerk! Well, if Yoshiko were a real person, one of the tasks that she would have as a real person is to mature and individuate,
Mm-hmm.
and that's part of the utility of we call it trauma today, but you
Mm-hmm.
can call it evil.
Yeah.
That's what trauma is for. It's to teach you how to be strong in the face of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sort of Nietzschean way to look at it, I guess. But
I agree with that.
well, it's just one interpretation. I mean, obviously, people that deal with trauma have lots of different views on it.
Yes.
But if you want to become gritty, that's one way to look at it, right? But Yoshiko doesn't need to be gritty because Yoshiko's not a warrior. Yoshiko's a lover.
Mm.
Her path is the path of love, and the path of love always has sorrow with it, and sorrow is what's happening when something that you love is maybe not worth loving, or the love that you have for it brings pain. So she has no sorrow in her life other than her injury,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's her injury that makes her innocent, right? Because her brother Tatsuo is the one who gives it to her.
Right, yeah, for the audience, her brother gets into like a bike accident with her when she's young, and now she has a lame leg. Is that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's the Ophelia character, so of course she goes insane, but I just thought maybe this could be an opportunity for her to go from being a girl to being a woman by ingesting some of this poison. But yeah, I think it's just too fucking much for her.
Well, I think there's something in the story about how the marriage has never been consummated, or it hasn't been consummated,
Not yet.
because Nishi has used the marriage as a means to get close to Iwabuchi, and because Nishi's a good person, he's a just person, he cannot bring himself to take advantage of her because the marriage is false.
Do you think he has like and I don't know if right's the right word, but a right sense of justice? Because I kept
Yes,
thinking, okay, I'm gonna prod about that in a second,
go
because
for it.
I kept thinking there's a line in the film where they say the law can't, something like the law can't be used on evil people. It like
That's
basically
right.
has no effect. And I
That's
remember
right.
seeing the questioning scene in the very beginning with Wada, and I was like, what? You're not appealing to him at all. You're not speaking Wada's language. You're not speaking the language of these corporate people. And I think what becomes so terrifying and awesome about Nishi is that he can speak that language, even though he's not of that world. He's joined that world, but he assumes they're lions, so he acts like a lion himself.
That's right.
I love how Nishi is always framed in between Itakuru, I think that's his name. Itakuru? Yeah. And
Oh, his friend, the Horatio, his friend.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Itakura, that's his name, Itakura. And
Yes.
Wada, he's always framed in
Yeah.
between them. And Wada has a
And Wada's Polonius.
yeah, and Wada has a line like, you're going against your own nature.
That's
And
right.
that's when Nishi starts talking about like, it's not easy hating evil. I have to keep gussing myself up in order to do this, and I have to overblow my own evil and my own anger in order to even be able to match these people. So yeah, what do you think about that? What do you think about that in the justice?
Nishi has a lot of opportunities to take
Mm-hmm.
revenge. He could have killed Shirai,
Mm-hmm.
and he chooses not to. He is going to put himself in prison after the press conference. He's not looking to profit, he's looking to set things right. And there are times when he can't separate out his own need for vengeance, separate that from the social level, right? Because as you pointed out, there's words in the film about justice, about how
Mm-hmm.
the law doesn't work on evil people because evil people ignore the law. And it's a public corporation
Mm-hmm.
that is conspiring with the government. So it
Mm-hmm.
goes all the way up to the top.
Yeah, there's just more underlings and more people above them and more
Yeah,
people who are being told to commit suicide.
right, right. And remember in Hamlet, Claudius says, "My sin stinks to heaven."
Mm.
Corruption goes all the way to the top. So this is a kind of justice that comes from outside the social structure because the structure itself has been corrupted, which is why these evil people can't be brought to justice because the ones who are supposed to be just are themselves corrupt, right? It's like who watches the watchman?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Nishi is in a position where he has to be a vigilante, right?
Yeah.
It's like Batman, right? The reason Batman is so popular is because Batman's motivated by the death of his parents, and he refers to himself as "I am vengeance, I am the night." Right? Well, night isn't just when the sun goes down. Night is also mystery. Night is
Mm-hmm.
also mistaken identity. Night is also secrecy, right? And so that's what Nishi does. He adopts an alter ego. He goes into this situation secretly. He's an assassin of a kind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he's noble because he connects the death of his father with the needs of the society writ large, and he puts the needs of the society ahead of his own need for vengeance. So that's why he's honorable. That's why he's just.
Yeah. Batman was always my favorite comic.
Yeah, mine
Yeah,
too.
it's the coolest one. But it does get complicated later
Totally. Oh
everything
yeah.
you just said because when Nishi talks to Yoshiko in the hideout,
Mm,
when he admits that he loves her, he talks about how for when he found out who his real father was, he hated him for not being there for him for all
that's
those
right.
years and just pretending to be his uncle. And then when his father died and he received all of this money from him and he realized how much his father actually cared for him, his obsession with how much he hated his father got transported to his obsession with how much he hates the people who took him, quote unquote. And,
Hmm.
you know, Wada keeps asking the whole film, like, what kind of man are you? Like, how can you be so brutal? I mean, I agree with everything you're saying about the vigilante stuff, but it does also imply that something might just be kind of screwy with this guy. He gets fixated on things. What do you think about that?
It's a good question. I think it's just that's what makes him a hero.
The fixation?
Yeah. He has to put things right.
Mm-hmm. He cares.
Or otherwise, it's not just that.
Yeah.
If he doesn't put things right, his life will be completely meaningless. He'll be nothing but a victim. He won't have a life. So for him, it's a matter of life and death. This is the only thing that he can do.
But isn't that the kind of thing that when warped, or maybe not even when it's warped, is what makes the other people, quote unquote, evil? Is their desperate need to survive and to keep going with the meaning of their lives. As long as an underling is beneath them, someone else can take the fall and they can keep going as they're going and keep surviving and keep building their life and their immortality.
Yeah, I think that's why Wada is able to say to Nishi that there's another way for you, because Wada is a part of this big giant scheme and he can afford to pass the buck, but Nishi has no one else but himself.
That's true.
He's got Itakuro.
And I think Itakura and Wada are like, they're like the two voices in Nishi's head, the two parts of him. Because Itakura is like, you're a functional being. You're not a human being anymore. You gotta go. Like, we have to do this. Otherwise, we're screwed. Like, he's pure survival and acting out the plan. And Wada's the one who keeps presenting all the questions. Wada's the one who brings Yoshiko.
Right. Well, remember that Wada is old.
Wada's very old, yeah.
So that's what's interesting about Polonius, is that Polonius says to Laertes, to thine own self be true. Like when I was in theater school, people would say, oh, I hate Polonius. He's such a hypocrite. It's like, no, he's not a hypocrite. He's powerless. But he has wisdom because he's old. And he knows the cost of betraying your heart, because he has done it. Polonius knows that Claudius and Gertrude are corrupt, and he goes along with it for the sake of his children. So he's not really a man. Mm-hmm. He's an old, powerless, frail being that knows better.
Who has the wisdom of betraying his own heart.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so Wada is the same way. In a sense, Nishi he saves him from a volcano, which is hell. Like Nishi saves Wada from hell. So Wada is able to be reflective.
Yeah.
But Nishi is young. Nishi's not old. Nishi has to do something because he's young.
Yeah, and Wada's not even a person anymore because he's considered dead. He's not alive or dead. That's true. He's in this in-between space.
He's a ghost.
He's like a walking ghost.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that can come out of him now. So before we keep going, I want to touch on some other things that we mentioned earlier. So what do you think it is about Hamlet that has it be considered one of the West's finest plays? I feel like you're going to have a better answer than I possibly could.
I think if you continue to gas me up on this podcast, that the viewers will hate me, and we can use that to our advantage.
Do you want me to keep what you just said in the podcast?
Yes, I do.
So they know? All right, they know. You're in on it now, viewers. You saw the man behind the curtain.
This condescending know-it-all with his useless little opinion.
You're an actor. This is your whole thing. I'm a writer. I'm gonna analyze the symbols and shit.
That's true.
You're gonna analyze the dramaturgy and the
drama. I don't even have a college degree. Like what do I know?
Yeah, I have a degree in theater arts. I know less about Hamlet than you do.
What do I know?
Okay. So yeah, what do you
You uneducated mansplainer.
Oh, babe. I love it when you mansplain to me.
Please keep saying that. Yeah, keep saying that.
Will you mansplain to me and then pick me up like Toshiro Mifune and ask me if I'm okay?
Yeah, totally. This is going to be great for
almost kiss me and then don't kiss me because you want to preserve my innocence.
Totally. This is good. This is great for my career.
Okay.
It's really, people are really going to love and respect me. based on the mansplaining.
We're on
And
a podcast. We both have to talk, and I'm asking for your actor wisdom
right,
about
that's
Hamlet.
right.
So what do you think?
That's right. What's your question? Sorry. What is it? What were you saying?
My question was, what do you think it is about Hamlet that has it be considered Shakespeare's finest play and one of the West's finest plays? Because that's
Well, I
what you
think
said
one of
earlier,
the
right?
yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
I think one of the really obvious questions in Shakespeare, the whole canon
Mm-hmm.
of Shakespeare, is why would anyone want to be a king?
Mm.
Seems like all the kings in Shakespeare are having a very bad day.
Yeah.
And yet, men want to rise to the top. Men want to rule. Men want to be in charge desperately for whatever reason. Who knows? Maybe it's for their offspring. Maybe it's for their legacy. Maybe it's so that they can pretend that they won't die.
Mm.
Maybe it's so that they'll feel safe. So it must be a great thing to be a prince because you'll be king one day.
Mm.
But you're looking at what court politics really does to the human soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and Hamlet asks the question, what is vengeance and what is justice, right? And in the West, our cultural, say our deep cultural psychostructure is one of monarchy, right?
Mm.
God is a king. God is a king. And the hero of the West, Jesus Christ, is his son.
The prince.
He's a prince,
Mm-hmm.
right?
The Lion King.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
So
that's Hamlet, isn't it? Or
that's Hamlet.
that's
also
Hamlet.
Hamlet. That's also Hamlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. The story touches on the deep psychological needs of the West, and you also see what happens to the women that are in the orbit of these men that wish to become king. It's a good question, right? Does Laertes want vengeance or does Laertes want justice? Like, part of the hero's journey is to save your father from hell. At the beginning of Hamlet, you see the ghost of the now dead King Hamlet,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hamlet Senior,
mm-hmm.
and he's in hell, and he's saying, "I'm being burned alive every day. If you, my son, don't avenge me, then I'm going to burn for all eternity." So here's this kid. I mean, I know we said earlier that or I said earlier that teenagers aren't really a thing in Elizabeth's day, but
still a young man.
You're still a kid,
yeah.
You know. And why should you be the one to set things right? Well, the king sets things right. The archetype of the king is the one who brings divine order to all of the world. And so Hamlet is personally motivated to avenge his father, and he is compelled as a prince to set things right. And of course he fails. Right? He fails. So he brings destruction.
Do you think he failed perhaps because he got more absorbed in the vengeance part than the justice part, like divine justice?
I think that he failed because of Murphy's Law.
Explain that for the audience at home.
Like, if something can go wrong, it will.
Yeah, you gotta check every single box. It has to be tight, a tight plan.
Yeah.
So when you describe divine order, you know, that whenever, I mean, this is the power of...
I just do it to turn you on. I don't really know anything about it.
Well, I was going to say, I feel very... just thinking about that archetype and describing it, like, really gets my body tingling.
I know you're blushing.
Like, you feel moved by an archetype. Like we talked about last week, it moves you. And when you explain it that way, it's like, well, of course that you would go on that journey of quote unquote vengeance, because look at what you're being called to do. Like, it's a literal God. It's a divine calling.
And not only that, but the alternative is that you live in chaos for the rest of your days.
Yeah, and if the archetype of the king is divine order, then of course you're going to want order over chaos. I mean, everyone wants order over chaos.
Absolutely.
And you said that this answers the like deep psychological needs of the West, this
Hmm.
desire for order and this like monarchical mindset. But the
Hmm.
vengeance part,
Hmm.
that's what doesn't resonate with me with this film. I can understand the need for divine justice and setting things right, but
Hmm.
to take things so far that you have to become like the people around you, I don't know. Something like I get it, but the way we saw it in this film, it always felt like he was going a little bit too far. Maybe he didn't
Hmm.
have to torture Moriyama in the cellar. Maybe he didn't have to make that one guy go insane. Maybe it would have been kinder to just throw him out the window, you know?
Well, remember that Martin Luther King would take children
Oh, yeah.
and put them in front of the white supremacists in the South because he knew that the moral consequences for beating children would be higher for these white supremacists than in beating adults. So the people that fight for goodness use evil for their own effects. It's like in Harry Potter, Defense Against the Dark Arts. You have to learn how this stuff is done.
In order to get inside of it and dismantle it.
That's right.
Yeah. And also, MLK was an INFJ, and so was Hitler. Hey.
Not to say that MLK and Hitler
Our buds.
are equal in any
No,
way,
no,
but
but
well, INFJs are interesting just because INFJs are idealists that are extremely practical, and so that's why they make such good leaders.
yeah, yeah, they can get it done,
Yeah, they're able to get it done, right? They're able to turn ideals into actionable
which is
plans.
always so great.
It's also kind of insane.
It takes a lot to do that. It takes a
I think you
lot.
have to be a I think you have to be a crazy
You
person
have
in
to
order
be
to be an
fixated, just like Nishi.
that's
You
true.
have
You
to be,
have to be single-minded.
yeah, one track mind.
And of course Mifune played all the great samurai roles.
Yeah, and the Macbeth character in Throne of Blood,
Yeah,
which I fucking love.
so good.
Oh,
I wanted to talk about the West as
yeah, keep
well.
going on the West.
I'm not saying that Hamlet addresses the need for divine order and therefore it addresses the needs of the West exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big question about, is Shakespeare universal, or is the idea of universalism a Eurocentric idea in and of itself?
Mm.
Right. So I think Zizek has really a good point about this movie.
About this movie?
About this movie.
What does he say?
Well, he says that you know that it's a great work of art because it's transposable into another culture.
Mm.
It's a Western story that a Japanese film director was able to tell in Japan, in Japanese, with Japanese tropes, with Japanese characters,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So it has it's open ended, is what Zizek calls it.
So it might not be as Eurocentric as people think.
I mean, obviously, kings and queens and Denmark,
Well,
and
Denmark, but kings and queens are everywhere.
they are. They
Everywhere.
are. Sometimes they're called emperors and empresses, and sometimes they're called presidents and first ladies, and sometimes they're called premiers or chancellors and the chancellor's wife. But the energy of the archetype is absolutely present in
Yeah.
human culture.
And the
Yeah.
energy of like a divine feminine being, quote unquote, like
Mm-hmm.
a queen, and a divine
Mm-hmm.
masculine being, like a king, is
Mm-hmm.
everywhere too. So, and the
Absolutely.
forces of order and chaos are everywhere you look in every
Right.
culture.
Okay, that's a good segue into what my next point was.
Yeah.
So then why, if this energy is everywhere, then why does it address Western needs
Yeah.
specifically?
Right. That's the question.
Okay, so in the West, what we're trying to figure, this is just my little pet theory,
Okay.
so it's probably half bullshit and the other half only pertains to me. So take it for what it's worth,
Okay.
please. Anyway, the whole point that I'm making is that in the West we're trying to figure out how much chaos can we have and still have a knit together a society? How much freedom can we tolerate when we have the need for a king? We have the need for a king
Mm-hmm.
because we have to have divine order.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we have meaningless lives. But too much order, we have oppression. We have an oppressive, tyrannical society.
Or a oppressive, tyrannical business company like the public
Right.
core in this. Like the
Yeah.
hierarchy is so clear that it's like, okay, you're next. Are you going to kill yourself? Oh, and
Right.
what's the or else? Like they're getting nudged to kill themselves every time. It's like kill yourself or we'll kill your family, kill yourself or
No, no, no. You'll live in shame,
it's about shame and
which,
honor.
right.
Yeah.
It's about shame and honor. Yeah. And to live dishonorably in Japan is worse than death. But remember in the first act, or let's say the second act, when we're seeing the investigation,
Mm-hmm.
the reporters and the investigators are saying this is murder.
You're right.
You're compelling these people to kill themselves. This is murder.
Mm.
And so that's part of the way you know it's corrupt, right? Because seppuku is considered an honorable act, right? If you fail, you bring shame to your liege lord or to your family or to your culture or your nation or whatever it is. And so you've dishonored them in your failure. So it would be better to die honorably than to live in dishonor as a testament of shame to your superior.
And I suppose if they didn't have a character like Nishi to look at all that and say, that's not honorable, that's you acting like sheep to slaughter,
That's right.
then we
That's
wouldn't
right.
have a film.
And now, yeah, that's true. That's true. But now we're back to revenge versus justice.
Yeah, because to die with honor, even if it means killing yourself, could be a kind of justice because you're setting
Yeah,
things right. You're putting
that's
things in
right.
order and may look
Yeah,
really violent and strange, but you are putting things in
yeah.
order.
And to commit suicide, even if it's in the name of protecting your superior, which in Japan is considered typically an honorable act.
Mm-hmm.
If your superior is corrupt himself,
Mm-hmm.
how honorable is it? Right? So now you're questioning the act of the ritual versus the spirit of the ritual.
Right.
The intent of the ritual is to preserve honor. But how are you preserving honor if by killing yourself you're protecting dishonorable people?
Exactly. Yeah. That's the conundrum in this film.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is no honor anywhere, top to bottom.
Right.
Sin goes all the way
Right.
to heaven.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
The sin goes all the way to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so interesting in Hamlet that the divine call to adventure comes from hell. It comes from the ghost of
Of hell.
the father who's residing in hell.
Yeah, that's true.
So in hell, like hell is saying you need to set things right.
Even hell, the most
Yeah.
it's telling you there's not enough order.
Right. And
That's how you know they mean it.
yeah, really. Well, that's part of the reason that Hamlet is such a brilliant work of art. The fact that it subverts the origin of the divine call to justice,
Mm-hmm.
or the divine call to adventure, or the call to set things right.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that could come from hell is very alarming, because what do you do when the king himself is corrupt? What do you do when the Pope is corrupt? The Pope is supposed to be the emissary of God. What do you do when the people that represent moral virtue are themselves corrupt? Well, then you have to become just evil enough to destroy the society so that you have the opportunity to create a good society in its place. And of course, that's a contradiction in terms, and therefore Hamlet fails.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that the call to adventure itself came from his father, who is in hell. So what does that say about his father? Like, he's a kind of king that's also must have been corrupted in some way to have ended up in hell. So the whole call from the start is kind of doomed to fail. Because it doesn't have enough, what's the word, purity in it, doesn't have enough good in it, doesn't have enough honor in it, there's not enough divinity in it.
Yeah.
It's too corrupted.
It's too corrupt.
And that's what I meant when I said Nishi's kind of screwy. Like you can tell he's been like,
Hmm.
as much as he has to guss himself up, and there is like a love that's pushing this plan forward. You can tell he's been warped by the anger and the frustration of every single circumstance of his life.
So now I'm questioning my own answer to your question earlier about, is Nishi an honorable
I,
fellow, or is he
I
not?
think he is, but he's not free of his own corruption. The only one who is truly free of corruption is Yoshiko, which is why she
And
goes
she just go,
insane.
which is why she
She
goes
has
mad.
no
Yeah.
ounce of poison in her whatsoever. So
Mhm.
much so that when you give her some, she can't take it.
Well, so what are we supposed to do? I mean, because obviously
Yeah.
we live in times that are extremely corrupt. So are we supposed to preserve our purity just by going mad, or do we drink the poison a little bit and try to set things right?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, we're no good to anyone if we go mad. And the
Exactly.
only thing that is good about going mad is that someone can look at you and go, she went mad because she was so innocent. And you're still a paragon of innocence. So you get to be the symbol of innocence and the warning sign to people if you continue down this evil path. In that way, it is kind of
Mm,
honorable to allow yourself to go insane or to leave this world, to preserve your innocence in that way, even if it means the destruction of yourself. Like, do you preserve your innocence at all costs? Maybe. But
protect your heart.
yeah, you cannot betray your heart.
It's spray painted all over the ground in New York
I
City,
know,
right?
I know.
Protect your heart. It's just there.
Everywhere.
They're telling you.
Yeah. But also, how rare is a person that is truly innocent anymore?
The Galahads. Where are the
It seems
Galahads?
like it's considering everything we have to be, that we are exposed to in modern day, it seems like it's harder and harder to serve your sins. It's not impossible, but I mean, I have to work really hard at maintaining whatever quote unquote goodness I felt I learned growing up, and not act like I really don't ever want to cause anyone harm ever. And so many other
Right.
people in my life have wanted to cause me harm, and I'm like, why? Like, I don't understand. And like that's a practice.
Do you think do you think they wanted to cause you harm, or do you think that they caused you harm because they were ignorant?
It's both. They felt they were wronged
Okay.
somehow, and so they wanted a kind of vengeance, but
Hmm.
they were blind to whatever was going on in their own heart to have
Okay.
them not enact vengeance. I don't know. Maybe.
I think you can say the same thing about Nishi,
Uh-huh.
that he's blind to his own heart.
Yeah.
And in fact, the only time we see him be sensitive to what's in his own heart is in the presence of Yoshiko.
Yeah, when he realizes, oh shit, I love this woman.
Right.
And Takura, the guy who is like, yeah, let's do this, let's kill everyone, fuck it. He at first is like, oh, that's an interesting development, and then later he's like, that was a huge mistake.
Right.
But it's not. I mean, she is the only force in the film that has anyone even pause and go, wait, should we keep doing this? I think maybe it's not that you have to poison yourself. Maybe it's that you have to become strong. And I don't know what that takes besides injecting some poison.
I was about to say,
But but you have to become strong in such a way that your innocence is preserved, and when you're in the face of evil, you can radiate that innocence so much that it blots out all the darkness around you.
so that's kind of what I was about to say is that the one that builds your strength is the warrior. The energy of the warrior archetype is what gives you psychologically the wherewithal to be strong. And the reason that the warrior archetype is so taboo right now is because the warrior archetype always brings with it an enemy. And it goes against this idea that we should all get along and that there's no place for hate. It goes against the idea that we should have complete and total social harmony.
Well, I don't even think that's possible to have complete and total social harmony.
Well, of course not. That's why it's an ideal.
Yeah, and you even if you have an innocent, they're an innocent because they stand out from all the other people who are not or who are no longer innocent. It might just be like a trip of, like you said, alchemizing for everyone. Okay, you've all ingested poison. Now, can you have it be released from your body somehow so that you can get back in touch with your innocence? Maybe it's a
Right.
little bit of both. I don't know. I'm always at the fucking both and balance answer, which pisses me off. But then I
Right.
think about, I mean, you mentioned earlier another prince, Jesus. I wouldn't necessarily call him the warrior archetype. He's the magician.
Yeah, Jesus is a magician, of course.
So
Yeah.
maybe you have to be a magician more than you have to be a warrior.
Well, to do the alchemy part.
Even to do the innocence part. Like that requires like a moment to moment alchemy, being in the face of
Right.
everything we're exposed to in this hyper modern technological world
Yeah.
and what it's doing to people's minds. Like you have to be around people and go, I am not gonna fall to this.
I mean, the innocence comes from love.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your lover. The fact that you can love means you're innocent. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not innocent, you can't love. And if you can love, you're innocent. On some
Mm-hmm.
level, it's in there somewhere. You know, like Nishi says, maybe I just
Mm-hmm.
don't hate enough. I think he probably sees himself as a little weak, a little
Yeah.
impotent.
Yeah, after he makes Shirai insane
Right.
instead of throwing him through the window. When he comes back from that, the first thing he says is, I'm too soft. I should have just killed him.
And I need more hate. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
Mars, you know, that's Ares. That's the
Mm-hmm,
warrior,
mm-hmm.
right? And of course the Greeks hated Ares because he was just pure aggression and libido and conflict without temperance, right? And so I think Nishi is misapprehended when he says, I need to hate more, which the Polonius character, Wada, points out. But I think the fact that he says it kind of points to that he's trying to develop this inner warrior, you might say.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's the magician who brings that inner lover and that inner warrior together. And there is a kind of yin yang thing going on with this movie. I mean, in the scene where Nishi reveals his plot and his background to what's her name?
Yoshiko?
Yoshiko, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Look at their costume. They're wearing black and white.
They do that throughout almost the whole film.
Yeah. And they're sitting in an arrangement with a giant beam between them.
Yeah, which is so good. And then he grabs her and they kiss on the beam.
And they wrap up. I mean, and you see
It's
like
the best
the way
necking
it's
ever.
so good. It's the best necking. It's the best necking ever. You see the way that she is wrapped up in him. She's like a serpent. You know,
curved.
she's coiled. Yeah.
And he's curved around her.
And it's just like the Yang Yin symbol.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful moment. I love that moment so much.
Yeah.
Here's another thing, and maybe this will help us with some of what we're talking about. What do you think of that last scene? Iwabuchi has the press conference after everything we just found out about Nishi getting murdered and the whole thing being covered up so violently. And Iwabuchi's giving the press conference and feigning mournful tears for his lost son-in-law and how he was the perfect secretary, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes into his office. He's perfectly fine. And his daughter and son are in there. And that's when we see that Yoshiko's lost, gone. Her mind is shot. And her brother Tatsuo says, we're done. We're disowning you. Bye-bye. And you see Iwabuchi maybe regretting it or feeling upset about it for a moment, but then he gets on the phone with his boss and tells his boss, yes, everything's been put to rest. And then I can't remember which he confuses for what, but he confuses night for day or day for night.
That's right.
And says the wrong greeting to his boss and is like, sorry, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Okay, bye-bye or something. Hangs up the phone, screen goes black, and then we see the title card one more time that says the bad sleep well.
Right.
So is he bad? Or is he just another underling? Is he just another sheep like everybody else? And sleep meaning death, like the bad die well, like it's good to see the bad die well or something. What do you take away from that? Because I feel like that was like one last little pin in whatever message we're meant to take away from this, and I'm not sure what to make of it.
The real thing that stands out to me is that we've seen in the film that Iwabushi has considered suicide.
For his boss, not for his own reasons, but because he was asked to.
No, I think he offers, does he not?
Well, he says like, well, yes, and of course, if it doesn't go well,
yeah, or maybe it's just lip service.
Yeah, because he like already knows it's expected of him, and
Right,
the guy
right, right.
sent
Okay,
sleeping
yeah,
pills,
yeah.
so like it's already.
So it's already sleep.
Yeah.
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 But then he has words about, oh, that's a good idea, Mr. President. I'll go abroad.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing he says in the final scene is like he talks about maybe retiring, and the boss, the president, is like, no, you should just go abroad for a little while. Almost like we still have more use for you, but we just need you to disappear right now. So he doesn't quite get to be free yet.
So we don't really know what he does.
No.
It's funny because he's the least morally ambiguous character because he's the antagonist. He's the one who set all this in motion.
Yeah.
Except the title is, as you say, The Bad Sleep Well, and he's not sleeping.
Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know, you would think that he would be saying to the boss, hey, you know, like, I got 12 hours last night. I feel great. Like, just rainbows and sunshine over here.
Yeah, and it's the exact opposite.
So it's like Kurosawa saying that no one's really bad, and yet we have corruption?
Maybe.
Right, I don't know. My point is that I don't know.
I don't know either. And I mean, even when we see that horrible scene when he drugs his daughter and puts her to sleep, maybe knowing that he might poison her, maybe knowing that might kill her, he stands in the hallway and waits to see what will happen. He paces the hallway outside the room where he left her, and he stares at himself in the mirror. And I cannot read any expression on him. He looks utterly blank. And I wonder if him and Nishi have something in common where it's like he's had to become, or so determined to stay in the position that he's in, that he's had to numb himself. He's betrayed his heart so much that he can't feel anything anymore.
It could be like Nishi in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's almost like a warning.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, that's really astute. That's a really good point. I hadn't considered that. That's really, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think he's betrayed his heart so much that it's like he's numb now. And the whole tragedy of every single person in this film except Yoshiko, I mean every single person down the line, has betrayed themselves in some way.
Definitely.
And that's what could make them all bad. But it's also a connecting human link between all of them.
They sleep poorly.
Yeah, they're all up till like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. doing these games.
These games, yeah.
All happening at nighttime. Nishi's always out late.
The stuff that was going on in Act 3 when, like, they're scaring Shirai.
I know, oh my god. All the shots in the road with Wada spooking him.
So freaky.
And the office scene where they make him insane. That scene too is one of the most beautifully filmed, well executed scenes in cinema history.
Can we just pause about the symbology for a second and just talk about the cinematography?
Yeah. But that scene's a great way to talk about it. The flashlight is the greatest example of a highly executed prop.
Oh yeah.
There's a completely logical reason for why he needs that flashlight. It's because he can't turn on the lights. If he does, he's going to get spotted. And it creates a beautiful shot by having to constantly flash it back and forth between people's faces to do what he needs to do. It's utterly functional and utterly beautiful at the same time. And he always frames people beautifully in like these sets of threes. There's so many like strong rectangular lines that always direct you exactly to the thing that needs to be focused on. Right. It's so neat.
And the cuts are amazing too, because there's so many long shots. I mean, it feels like you'll have 3 scenes per shot.
It makes me despair for the over the shoulder shit we always see. Because like there are so many shots
they don't do it in this.
You're not even up close to these people. No. Like for the majority of that gorgeous scene with Yoshiko and Nishi in the hideout, most of it you are far away from them.
And it gives the actors the ability to be a little more theatrical too.
Yeah, and to act with their entire
I'm
bodies.
gonna start doing this. I think these are kind of how my shots are gonna go in the future.
That's a really good idea.
I mean, we made the hot dog movie and we tried to do this, but we failed. And the reason that we failed was because we didn't fill all that time with stuff. And this film fills the time. I mean, the way that
There's no filler.
there's no filler.
Like everything that's happening is highly intentional.
Absolutely. And you have to adjust to the pace of this film because in terms of tempo, it moves very slowly.
But it hurts the whole time.
It hurts the whole time. But in terms of new information, I mean, it goes so fast.
Yeah, I had to watch it twice and like continue to pause over and over to get all the facts.
Yeah. You're getting new information constantly, and usually with a film like an American film that tells a great story. Of course, American films do tend to emphasize that.
Yes.
Like you'll get a piece of new information at the end of 3 scenes. You'll have a scene. You'll have a second scene. So you'll have one scene that creates a problem. You'll have a follow-up scene which explores that problem. The third scene resolves that problem and new information falls out. And that's one story beat. And then the next beat will be another 3 scenes. In this movie, you have maybe like a 5, 6, 7 minute shot. It's one shot and it lasts forever. And everything that happens in the shot is new information.
At the end of every scene or in the midst of every scene, even as you're getting new information, new vital information, a new question starts to form. And it immediately gets answered in the next scene. It immediately gets answered. Or one of the characters says one of the things that you were thinking. Like when the wedding banquet ended, I was like, damn, that was so good. And then that guy goes, wow, what a one act.
What a one act, yeah.
You know, it was the same thing.
This is related to what I was going to say because it's really good visual storytelling. Because you see what's going on and then you hear the characters talk about it in hindsight.
Yes.
You'll see the answer to the question that the movie gives you. You'll see it, but they ask the question after they give you the answer.
Yeah. I think a really good example of this is the sequence between Miura and Wada when Miura runs out into the street and kills himself, and then you see Wada climbing up the mountain towards the volcano.
Right.
Miura gets a very vague message. I know you'll see this through to the bitter end,
right.
Even after he gets rearrested.
That's right.
And we're all like, what the fuck?
Why did he?
And then he runs into the street and gets hit by a car. And we're like, why did he just kill himself?
Right.
And then Wada we see going up, preparing to jump, and we're like, oh God, I guess he's next. Why? And then Nishi's right there to be like, you're willing to do this for your higher. He answers the whole thing.
And then if you still didn't figure it out by then, and this is why Kurosawa is so great, is that the next scene is the police investigators talking about they're asking these people to kill themselves. So if you still haven't quite figured it out, you get the answer.
Yeah, the information just gets clearer and clearer and clearer every moment, and new questions are presented, and then that gets clearer. It's just layer upon layer, constantly answered.
But I want to know your opinion about this. It feels to me like the cinema that we have today, if you can even call it cinema, right? Right? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think so.
What the characters do is they talk about the problem first, and then you see it visually.
Yeah, right. I constantly feel like my intelligence or my patience
is being insulted. Yeah, absolutely.
They just assume I'm a drugged out, numb monkey, which, good guess, because most people fucking are.
Most of us are.
Like, I wouldn't be as much if you gave me a chance to think and you gave me a chance to wonder or to have questions.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting spoon-fed stories. It's gross. And another thing I want to say about modern cinema, because one thing we mentioned in our bonus minutes, which you can get if you become a patron, you can hear more of the minutes that we can't include in the free episode. One of the things we talked about was Dune 2, and we were talking about
Oh yeah, we did talk about Dune Part Two.
Yeah, and I'm not going to repeat everything we said in there because that's in the bonus minutes for you to go
Right,
listen to. But
right.
one of the things we talked about is how hard it is to make a film. And part of the reason why is because you need the best script, the best actors on earth, all
Mm-hmm.
the et cetera, the best. In order for it to really be a work of art, you cannot settle for anything less than the best.
And then for some reason, it's still not working.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I wouldn't consider anyone in Dune the best. Like maybe a person or two.
I talked about Denis Villeneuve is amazing.
Yeah,
Timothy
Denis
Chalamet.
Villeneuve. I don't know.
Timothy Chalamet is amazing. Zendaya is amazing.
No.
Well, I mean, it's. Well, look.
I disagree.
Hold on.
No, I need to tell you why I disagree.
Okay, tell me why, and then.
Look at Toshiro Mifune.
Yeah,
Look at Toshiro Mifune.
Yeah,
that
he's amazing. What
is
about?
A consummate actor.
But
that
look
is,
at the quality of scripts that he's getting.
Hold on.
Okay, all right.
I feel like you could see him. It's okay. I feel like you could see him anywhere in anything and you would be enthralled because he is so in his body. He is completely embodied. And you can tell because he looks healthy by doing this art form. He looks like his body is being used for the purpose it was meant to be used for.
That's true.
Every single pore is acting. Every single part of him is in this. There's no part of him, no arm or finger that's numb or just not knowing what to do. He's in it completely.
You're
and
right.
I really mean it. He looks vitalized and healthy. When you watch someone like Timothée Chalamet, I don't feel that from him at all.
Well, I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I would be interested to explore in terms of culture or society or whatever why we're having these two this disparity.
Mm-hmm.
But my only thing about Timothée Chalamet is you can't deny that he's great.
I mean, think he is.
He's not great. Okay, I agree with you that he's not embodied in the way like Toshiro Mifune is,
or any great actor,
or Yul Brynner, or Gregory Peck, or Greta Garbo, or
they were all in their form.
They were all in their form, absolutely. But we're in the internet age, and
so people have one foot in a meta world and one foot in the real world.
Yeah,
and it's creating very disconnected, disjointed acting.
Right, but also this is what I want to say is that what if we gave Timothée Chalamet a script that was as good as the script of this film? Do you think that he would rise to the challenge? Because I haven't seen anything that Timothée Chalamet's been in where the script was truly great. Truly great. I mean, in Dune 2, going back to talking about the problems in the scene and then showing it, or not even seeing it. Remember in Dune 2 when they're talking about, the crazy, fanatical Fremen that live in the South, and we never see them. So he has not told the story, Denis Villeneuve has not told the story visually. He's told it verbally. And we're just expected to believe that that's part of that world, and it's betraying the medium of cinema because cinema is visual storytelling. So what I'm saying is if we saw Chalamet in the milieu of this older style of cinema that prioritized showing over telling, would we see a change? And I don't know.
That's a very good question.
That's my question to you.
That could be true. I mean, there's the scripts of the old milieu. There's the directors.
My God, the directors.
Yeah, the directors. I mean, that could be it. When I think of Timothée Chalamet in like
Timothée Chalamet.
Chalamet in like a 1960s film, he could be in league with like oh my God.
He could be in league with who?
Maybe in league with like some of the great male actors of that time if he could rise to the challenge in a film like that. I mean,
and how's he going to rise to the challenge if there's not a film?
Well, then, like, what do we do? Because it's not...
Yeah, what do we do?
It's... The writing is encouraging... It's not even the... It's the thought process behind what has any of these projects be made. It's the seed that's first planted that has someone go, I'm going to read over the script. Okay, looks good to me. I'm going to pick this director. Oh, their philosophy lines up with me.
Right,
And it
right.
all lines up with what? What did you start with? Like, we just want to make this much money,
I think
or
that's.
we just want to have
What did you
this
start
kind
with?
of, yeah, what did you
That's
start
it.
with?
I think that's it.
If you don't start with, like, the people who made these films, they care about something.
Hmm.
They are true artists. They have an actual message or question that they want to pose to the world that matters to them
Hmm.
and occupies their mind day and night. And when I see like the latest NYU graduates, I'm like, what do you care about, man? Why is your only concern to make a cool shot?
Well, I actually have an answer for that.
Great, go for it.
Believe it or not, the guy who has an answer for everything has an answer for that. Jesus. I'm like
Baby, you gotta
psychological.
talk.
I'm in trouble these days. It's okay. It's
What
fine.
you have to say is valuable.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm not trying to
Okay.
shit on myself. I just
All
like,
right.
I'm just
All right.
being way too self-conscious.
Okay. Well, I think you're doing great.
Thanks. That's good. Let us know in the comments if
Is Will doing a good job?
yeah, let us know in the comments. But yeah. I have a pretty thick skin too, so if you want to tell me that, it's just like boring you to tears, then, like, say it in the most brutal way possible, please.
Also, I have
we want
good
to see your
news.
creativity. What's your big news?
It's not big news, it's good news.
Oh, what's your good news?
In less than 24 hours, our first episode got 100 views.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it was Baraka, which is a film no one knows about.
We're going to talk more about this. Okay. A lot of people know about Baraka. A lot of people.
I didn't know about it until
Not
you
enough
told me
people.
about it.
Not
Enough people. Okay.
Not enough people. What were we
Anyway,
talking about? I think I may have lost it.
What did you start with?
NYU. Okay, look.
NYU.
No, it's the school. It's not the kids. I mean, I've been
right.
like,
So what did you start with? What did the school start with? What's the school's message?
I've been in like 4 NYU student shorts.
Oh God, I've been in
right.
Yeah,
right. So
we've both been in so many.
I've been with I've been with them, with the kids that are making the films. All they're learning is the technical process of filmmaking, coupled with probably this like woke mind virus.
Ugh.
Coupled with, don't be a free thinker. Coupled with, don't have artistic integrity because there's no such thing, right? And people are going to challenge me on this, and that's fine. The reason no, it's good. I welcome it. I really do. I welcome it. Like, the reason that I'm saying that NYU does not teach artistic integrity is because there's this notion that everyone's subjective point of view is equally valid. And how can you possibly have integrity if you're living in that schizoid, that kind of a world where how can you really believe in your own point of view if other people's point of view is equally as valid as yours is? It's like, well, that also means that my point of view is equally as invalid.
We're back to the postmodern problem.
Yeah, and it's just, I think the postmoderns were asking really good questions, but some of the answers are just totally fucking insane. Like, well, the person who's most valid is the one with the most authority in the room. It's like, that's what validity is. Yeah,
the most oppressed person.
Well, it's both of them. So people are like are playing the I'm oppressed cards so that they can have their point of view be more valid than someone who isn't oppressed, and it doesn't make sense.
No,
because a point of view is about having a sensitive, informed vision.
Underline, highlight. Yes, retweet.
It's about being sensitive to the world. It's about, like, it is about having empathy, but it's not just empathy for other people's, like, pain. It's empathy for the fact that the sun is shining in the sky and you're here on this planet and life is suffering, and how you deal with it defines what your character is. And yes, there are good choices and there are bad choices. And how are you going to be able to make the correct ones? And so people get into this whole thing about, like, well, who am I to say what a correct choice is? And it's like, well, if you're an artist, you can't afford this schizoid existential anxiety. If you have existential sensitivity, and you're trying to go to film school and make money at a film career, and your existential sensitivity is being misused by trying to not offend people and like just stay in your lane and say that my point of view is not valid for reason X, Y, or Z, then you're not an artist at that point.
Yeah, your answer to the question of how do you deal with the sun shining and yet there is suffering, like that's your message. That's your vision. That's who you're going to be. That's what makes
Yeah,
you
yeah,
an
yeah.
artist.
So I think going back to your question, what are they starting with? Well, I don't know, but they're not starting with a message.
Yeah, and I'm not blaming the kids. It's
No, no,
obviously
no, no.
like it goes
The
deeper
kids
than
are
that.
great. They're
Yeah,
smart.
I feel sorry for
They're
them that that's the
interesting. They're
education they
interested.
got.
Yeah, no, no, no. The kids are great. Like
Yeah.
it's the schools.
It's the schools, and
Yeah.
what are the schools starting with, and who's above the schools? Like, how
Yeah.
does the sin go all the way to heaven?
Well, that's a question. I don't think it does, but
I don't think so.
I'm afraid that it does. Maybe
I
maybe
want to know where it starts because it's got to stop, or something new some counterforce has to be created.
I think that we live in a completely corrupt, meaningless,
oh boy,
you know, like world right now where everyone's drugged out, everyone is giving away their attention, everyone is living shallowly, and there's no money, everyone's broke. You know, like the world is becoming harder. It's not becoming easier. We're facing demographic collapse. I mean, there's all these existential threats, and we're living lifestyles that do nothing but intensify and aggravate our anxiety.
Okay, but that's just the new version of the sun is shining and yet there is suffering. And what are you going to do about it?
I mean, I agree
like
with that. I agree
we're
with that,
able to
but
come up with meaning and an answer to that still. That's what we're doing on this podcast.
oh, I don't know about that.
We're literally sitting here telling people that things are dead and they need to be alive. Isn't that our answer?
Well, yeah, but like you said that we're able to create meaning.
That's the meaning we're making out of the suffering.
I mean, you and I.
Yeah.
Are you speaking you and I?
No,
or,
that you and I. So
oh,
I'm
you
saying
and I,
it's
sure,
still possible.
I'm interested. Like, do you think it's possible on a social level, though? Do you think we'll ever go back to being a culture or society that has shared meaning? Okay, there we go. That's what I'm interested in.
That's a very good question. Maybe. I mean, hold on. We do have shared meaning right now, but it doesn't serve us. It's not conducive to life. All the woke shit is a communal meaning that tons of people have agreed upon and are now shaping society around.
I know that we've been shitting on it, but I don't think that that's the problem in our society.
I'm not saying it's the problem. I'm just saying it's an example.
A symptom. I think it's a symptom. I think it's well-meaning people. I think it's very well-meaning people that want to address these problems that too many of us face, but the prescription is something that's not grounded in history, and it's not grounded in intelligence and understanding. It's just grounded in repressed libidinal energy that needs any reason to get out.
Well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
You bet. You bet. That's what this movie
That's what this movie is.
That's what Hamlet is about. Do we have like final thoughts about this film? I mean, this is not a podcast that recommends movies, but I recommend it. It's so good. I could talk about this movie forever.
So could I. The bonus part might be quite lengthy, so get on that subscription. Become a member. You're missing out.
Be in our community so that, you know, we can have your input and so I can shut up.
Yeah, we have a chat room in the Patreon. I don't know if Will knows that.
Do we really?
I made a chat room that's just for members.
That's so good.
There's all the bonus content, like the bonus minutes. There's the bonus episode. I mean, there's so much good shit in there. And you can be a part of this thing that we're talking about. Yeah. You can actually be a part of it if you join us. Like, because then there's a community that's actually talking about it.
We want to, like, get people talking about how the artistic medium of cinema can be revitalized.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And how that echoes and reverberates out into other things.
Right.
Okay, so final thoughts?
The Bad Sleep Well. Final thoughts for The Bad Sleep Well. It's a very accessible telling of Hamlet.
Yes.
If you're from the West, Christendom, as it was once called, you know, you're the inheritor of this culture, and this story of Hamlet is at the center of this culture. So if you want to find out about it, this is a great film to watch. And it's made by a genius. It was his 12th film, so he definitely is in his prime when he makes it. Toshiro Mifune is amazing. The man.
Oh.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to stop the Asian hate, this could be a good way.
That's a great way to start.
If you're worried about, that secretly you're an anti-Asian racist, right? Then
watch Toshiro Mifune and then let me know that you're an Asian racist.
Yeah, right.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be really hard.
Yeah. I think 5 dragon eggs. Yeah.
Oh my God. Before we did this podcast, guys, Will and I we worked for somebody and did a review show for House of the Dragon, and it was just
season 2.
It was season 2. It was rough because season 2 is just talk about dead. Jesus.
Like everything that we're making this podcast about is sort of like in response to the kind of dreck that's being forced down our throats, such as House of the Dragon season 2.
I think the disappointment that I felt.
I can't say this out loud.
You're being honest.
I can't say this. That's the problem.
No, it's refreshing. It will be valued by the people who are desperate for this.
Watch my movies, guys.
Watch his acting. Will is a phenomenal actor. I'm not just saying that. He really, truly is. I've dated quite a few actors.
Wow.
And I had a really hard time.
And I picked the best one.
No, hold on.
This is absurd.
I've dated. Just hold on.
Just watch the movie. Watch the Dead Sea
I had a hard time believing in them. Okay, I didn't fully believe in them, but I met Will through acting, and he blew my mind. And I've believed in him every step of the way. Sweet. I would follow him anywhere.
I have so many good people on my team. I have so many good people on my team. I love everybody. I love you guys.
We love you.
I love you. That's sweet. Do you have a final thought?
Well, I was just gonna briefly say that I think seeing season 1 of House of the Dragon and then the utter dog shit disappointment that season 2 was, and my complete confusion about that fact, is partly what made me feel like we must make this podcast.
Yeah.
Because I'm so tired of.
Let's talk more about House of the Dragon in the
bonus part
behind the paywall.
Yeah, if you want to talk more about how Hot D season 2 sucked donkey dick, just come to bonus minutes.
Pay your $2 or whatever it is. Yeah,
it's $5, but
pay your $5.
That's how much you pay for coffee, like 20 times a month.
A day.
Yeah. So final thoughts. I'm really glad that we went from Baraka to this, because it feels like the two poles of humanity is us at our most profound and open and airy, and us at our most crunched up and survival based. And I'm just really grateful that we somehow intuited that and picked this film. Y'all should watch it. And I recommend reading the Hamlet speech about to die to sleep after or before you watch this, because it really recontextualizes the whole thing. This is my final thought. In that speech, he talks about how, as much as we complain about toiling and kind of in a way long for death, we would still rather toil than go into that unknown country, because no one ever comes back from it. And you don't know what's over there. And we'd rather keep going through the human bullshit than enter this new, mysterious, wonderful, or terrible land. And I just think that's really important to keep in mind while you're watching this film. That's my final thought.
Really, really nice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye speech. Here we go. All right. That's it. That's going to conclude the free part of our pod for The Bad Sleep Well by Akira Kurosawa. If you want to hear the bonus minutes, join us at patreon.com/filmpoems. Oh, next week is our double feature. It's the double feature of our making, and we've got two really awesome films. I don't think either of us have ever seen them, but I just know they're going to go perfectly together. It's A Bronx Tale and Rocco and His Brothers. That's our double feature. I think that's going to be really interesting.
I've been wanting to see Bronx Tale for a long time. So
yeah, and I've been wanting to see Rocco and His Brothers, and I just really feel like we're going to get a great conversation out of that. It'll probably be a longer episode because we'll have way more to cover.
Yeah, likely.
So definitely come back and check it out. I mean, we're going to have so much to say. Thanks so much for listening. Catchy phrase, go. You gotta catch a phrase.
Always remember, to thine own self be true.
Yeah. Don't betray your own heart. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.